Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at wcbe.org.
I'm John DeSando,
And I'm Mary Urena.
and this is Movie Time. Well, a good old time. Way back in the 14th century, Mary?
Yes, it goes past old-fashioned, old-fashioned time.
Yes, it's called The Last Duel. It doesn't star Kirk and Michael Douglas. It actually is, I don't forget what they call these things, the sword or something or other, and it used to be in sandals with that. But
yeah, like the Gladiator
Yeah,
era. Appropriate, because Ridley Scott directed Gladiator and directs
yeah,
this.
and started with the Duelists.
Yes.
And so this is perfect for Ridley Scott, who is no piker when it comes to directing a movie.
He has come full circle.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So, Mary, tell our audience a little bit about The Last Duel.
It takes place in medieval France and tells the story of Jean Carouge
Oh, nice.
and Jacques Legree, who were friends coming up through their service to the Count and King. And at some point along the line, they start to have a falling out over various things, culminating in Jacques Legree being accused of raping Jean Carouge's wife, Marguerite. And unlike a lot of women during that time, Marguerite actually speaks out and wants justice. And that leads to the last duel, allegedly, between Legree and Carouge.
There was at some point an idea of having Matt Damon and Ben Affleck be the two.
Yes, and they also are co-producers as well as screenwriters.
As screenwriters.
On this.
But I can see a very smart decision to have Adam Driver be the bad boy of this, and Ben Affleck to do a little bit of a silly turn as a count.
A little bit over the top.
It is true. In his bleach blonde hair or whatever it is. And yeah, it was. This was my thought. Although there are some saying he may be nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Oh, I hope not.
It's just a goofy role.
It's a goofy role. There were aspects of the film that, to me, bordered on the view of these very serious topics through the comic book lens of a high school or junior high school boy. The portrayal of Comte Pierre, the portrayal of King Charles VI.
Now, but wasn't King Charles the Mad King?
He was, but his mental illnesses and issues didn't start to appear until his 20s, and the time period of this film is actually when he's in his late teens.
Yes, yes.
But he's portrayed, it reminded me almost immediately of the criticisms Tom Hulce received when he portrayed Mozart
yeah,
in
that's
Amadeus.
Good point.
Because it just immediately was like too borderline silly, because in fact King Charles's mental illnesses were not so much immaturity and silliness, but were really more obsessive compulsive. So it didn't quite jive with me when I saw that portrayal. And he's on screen for just a few scenes. Actually.
Yeah, right. And they cut to him for the goofy parts, and I have to agree, it's a bit distracting to look at that and say, what's going on here, until you realize he really was the Mad King. But even then, I have to agree, it does sap some of the energy of the film, because I think this is one of the reasons I had us doing it, is I'm very interested in the social injustice part of this film. And I mean, as we look at it, a woman who is raped today, does she have it different?
Well, that was the part that I found really interesting, was the modern aspects of things that we're still grappling with today, even though we're 600 years removed from this period in human history. And it was almost depressing watching it, going, wow, things really haven't changed all that much. They have, but in the hearts and minds of society, if not the law, not as much as you would like to think.
No, right. I think in my written review I mentioned Harvey Weinstein. And that helped me through it, because we have come a ways where you can put jokers like this away. But still, in the larger context, how many women are beset upon in a variety of ways that are analogous to rape, if not rape. And I just think that's still going on.
It is, and that's what makes seeing the film, I think, compelling, is to understand the roots of why our society is the way it is today. This film was actually based on a book by Eric Jager, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly,
Okay.
by the same name, in 2004. And the rights to the movie had been purchased, but actually languished until about 2015, and then they languished again. But in 2019, it was announced that Damon and Affleck were on board as producers and screenwriters. They actually brought in a woman, Nicole,
Thank goodness.
Hollenseffer. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, it's close, yeah.
Is it close enough?
Yeah, it's close enough.
Nicole.
Yeah, Hollow Center.
Hollow Center.
Yeah.
Hollow Center.
Yeah.
Because the film actually borrows from Akira Kurosawa's masterpiece, Rashomon, and that the same story is told from three different vantage points in this case, and that's the vantage point of Carouge, the vantage point of Legree, and the vantage point of Marguerite, which is the last story told. And as is common with regards to human history, there's a lot documented about the life of Carouge and the life of Legree. Unfortunately, Marguerite's story is not as well documented. So Nicole actually, instead of basing her part of the film on well-documented facts, she had to rely on the research of the time and what a woman like Marguerite, what she would have been doing, how she would have behaved, and really had to then create what she believed to be Marguerite's story, because the law at the time, women were viewed as property of their husbands.
Really, you think? Yeah, boy.
And legally, in order to bring charges against Legree, to get to the trial by combat, she had to convince her husband that she was telling the truth. And there really, for a long time after this happened, she was still believed by historians to perhaps be lying, and that she, for whatever motives, which there could be various, even ones that her husband may have put her up to make this accusation. But for a woman to make this accusation and bring it to court during that time, she really would have, if lost, everything.
She would have been burned at the stake.
Well, and most of the time, actually not. But in this story, that was and it was true, that could have been the case. But also in a lot of duels at the time, most of the time, unless blood was drawn, there would be a couple of blows, and then the king or the head of parliament, whoever was the lead from the government attending the fight, would generally call a halt to it, and some sort of settlement would be made. But in this case, because blood is drawn by Legree, which did in fact happen, this is an incredibly well documented case in French documents dating from the 14th century. It is true that Legree drew blood first, and therefore the fight couldn't be stopped. And so it really hung in the balance as to whether or not Marguerite and her husband would survive, both survived this, had her husband not, been able to win the last duel and actually kill Legree.
A grim-faced, a grim-faced, what's his name? Her husband.
Oh, Jean.
Yeah, but
Jean
I'm thinking
Carouge.
of the Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Right, yes. Just, wow. And scarred.
Well, and he's, at the time of this film, I mean, he's an older man. And in real life, this is his second wife. His first wife and child were killed or died somehow. He's in his 50s
Yeah.
when this takes place. Adam Driver's casting is a little more problematic because they're supposed to be contemporaries, but Matt Damon actually is about 50.
That's right.
And Adam Driver's a complete generation younger.
Yes.
So they really would not have been contemporaries based on their age, but they fudged that a little in the film.
All right, Mary, what would you recommend to our audience?
I would recommend the film, flaws and all, because of the interesting history that it presents and how it reflects on, our legal system and our society today.
The Last Duel. And it was the last duel in France, judicial duel.
It was the last one officially sanctioned by the Parliament of Paris. So that's a misnomer. It's not a last duel.